Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rowan Petz, Executive Director here at the Australian Chamber of Commerce in South Korea. Welcome to our latest webinar, Unlocking Australian Immigration Opportunities, with our co-hosts AustCham China, AustCham Hong Kong, AustCham Mongolia, ANZCham Philippines, and AustCham South China. For many years, Australia has been a prime destination in attracting some of the brightest and best in global talents. More recently, the Australian government has launched its Global Talent Visa program, which aims at streamlining a visa pathway for highly skilled professionals to work and live permanently in Australia. To get a better understanding of this topic, today we are featuring two presentations. First, we'll be joined by Pip Butler, the Global Talent Officer with the Global Business and Talent Attraction Taskforce at the Australian Government, who will provide an overview of the program. And then second, we'll be joined by representatives of Ashton Legal, who will provide a more in-depth look into the visa application process, eligibility, and the process for applying for the visa. Now, to begin, maybe a welcome Pip Butler from the Global Business and Talent Attraction Taskforce. Pip, over to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today about the exciting opportunities the Australian Government is offering to assist internationally recognised individuals and top-tier businesses to Australia. As Rowan has kindly outlined, my name is Pip Butler and I'm the Global Talent Officer in the North Asia region. My role is to promote the Global Talent Visa program and to work with the Global Business and Talent Attraction Taskforce to identify and attract highly skilled individuals and exceptional businesses to Australia. My team and I provide concierge support to top talent wishing to migrate to Australia under the Global Talent Visa program. Now, I just need to, before I commence the presentation, I do need to advise that whilst this presentation is delivered in partnership with Ashton Legal, it's important that you are aware that this partnership is by no means intended to be interpreted as an endorsement of Ashton Legal services by myself as a Global Talent Officer or the Department of Home Affairs or the Australian Government more broadly. The Department of Home Affairs does not require you to use a migration agent or legal practitioner when submitting a visa application. Registered migration agents or legal practitioners, lawyers, are the only people in Australia who can provide you with assistance for a fee in terms of migration matters. For further information, you may wish to visit the department's website at the following link to obtain further information about who can help you with your application. Also, you can go to the Office of the Migration Agents Registration Authority for a full list of migration agents who are registered in Australia to provide migration advice. And similarly for legal practitioners, you may wish to check with the Law Society role of practitioners in individual states and territories in Australia. Now we're done with that, let's move on to the presentation. So, as you'd be aware, internationally, there's an intense competition for global talent, and Australia wants to position itself at the forefront in attracting top skilled migrants from across the globe to help build a stronger economy. The government is focused on attracting the best and the brightest, which has the potential to have large-scale positive impacts for the Australian economy, cultural prosperity, industry, and global position. So the question is, why Australia? In an increasingly turbulent times, Australia has performed very well, building on the strong foundation of a AAA credit rating and strong, flexible economy. Australia is a COVID success story. Our early and effective management of the pandemic has limited its impact, and our resilient economy is on track to continue to grow. Australia is building on its long history of economic growth with a robust blueprint for job creation and significant investment in key industry sectors, essential to sharpening our competitive advantage. Australia has a strong education sector, delivering the best minds and a highly educated workforce. We're a technology innovator, making our mark with cutting-edge technological advances. We are ranked 5th in the world for global entrepreneurship, and our Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, otherwise known as CSIRO, is ranked in the top 1% of scientific research institutions. So we have a robust blueprint for economic growth with major investment in advanced manufacturing, the digital economy, research and development, and the resources, defense and resources, defense and space sector. The new focus on cutting red tape includes fast-tracking environmental assessments, simplifying Australia's trade system by streamlining compliance processes for businesses and modernising digital services for farmers. A real investment of our digital economy to bring ultra-fast broadband to millions of families and businesses. A $29.2 million will be spent to accelerate the rollout of 5G, including an initiative to invest in 5G commercial trials and test beds in key industry sectors such as agriculture, mining, logistics, and manufacturing. Australia is also spending 9.6 million Australian dollars to support fintechs to export financial services and $6.9 million for 2 blockchain pilots directed at reducing business compliance costs. A $1 billion Australian investment package is also dedicated to boost Australia's defence industry and accelerating its growth. In addition to our $11.1 billion investment into more than 700 clean energy projects with a total value of $39 billion, the government has announced a $1.9 billion investment package to enable the rapid deployment of new and emerging low emissions technologies that will support growth and sustainable economic recovery from COVID-19. We also have a modern manufacturing strategy led by industry for industry, including about $1.5 billion investment to allow manufacturers to shift up the value of the chain and grow. And finally, we have a $2 billion additional investment into research and development incentives, providing businesses greater certainty as they navigate the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. To support implementation of our blueprint for economic growth, the Global Business and Talent Attraction Taskforce was established by the Australian Government in September 2020. It was led by the Prime Minister's Special Envoy for Business and Talent Attraction, Mr. Peter Verwer, AO. The taskforce seeks to attract high-value marquee businesses and exceptionally talented individuals to Australia, along with their ideas, networks, and capital. The Global Business and Talent Attraction Taskforce is an Australian government initiative and is a cross-agency initiative to attract these individuals to Australia. The task force will target high-value enterprises that could add significant investment to Australia in the next few years and exceptionally talented individuals from the arenas of business, culture, or science who will consider making Australia their home. The litmus test is an ability to create quality jobs, boost Australia's supply chain resilience, and turbocharge our capacity in priority growth sectors, starting with advanced manufacturing, health, and financial services, including fintech. The task force will provide bespoke assistance packages, industry-specific contacts, and support to help companies and individuals find the right location. The Global Talent Visa is the primary visa used by the task force to facilitate relocation for exceptional talent to Australia. Under the Global Talent Visa program, we are seeking talented individuals in the following 10 priority growth sectors: resources, agri-food and agri-tech, and energy, health industries, defense advanced manufacturing and space, circular economy, digitech, infrastructure and tourism, financial services and fintech, and education. There is no specific occupation list for the Global Talent Program. Rather, the government is seeking talented individuals operating at the top of these future-focused sectors. So whilst the Global Talent Visa Program provides priority to those invited to apply, there are currently significant delays in the expression of interest and visa application stages. The department is prioritising expressions of interest from candidates whose talents will assist Australia during the COVID-19 pandemic and through the economic recovery. For more information about the program, you may wish to visit www.globalaustralia.gov.au. You may also email me and my team at globaltalentnorthasia@homeaffairs.gov.au. Or if you are a Hong Kong passport holder, we have a dedicated email box at globaltalenthk@homeaffairs.gov.au. Candidates who are located in the Southeast Asia region, which includes the Philippines, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam, may email my colleagues at globaltalentsoutheastasia@dfat.gov.au. I thank you all for your time today. This concludes my component of the presentation, and I'd like to pass back to Rowan to introduce the Ashton Legal team, and I look forward to speaking to you all again during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pip. It's great to see a good overview of the program, which is a fantastic initiative to obviously grow and expand and diversify Australia's talent within the region. That's great to see. Now, moving on, we'll go into a bit more of a deep dive. I'd like to introduce the Chamber's newest member, Ashton Legal. We have representing Ashton Legal, we have Ruobing Yang, Minh Nguyen, and Ella Jai, who will be all speaking about some of the practicalities of applying for the program and also a little bit about eligibility. So, Ruben, I think I'm going to hand it over to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Pip, for your introduction. And we are a very proud member of the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Korea, and we look forward to working with all the members to help you in whether it's a business or whether it's individuals in their process of migrating to Australia or investment into Australia. And also we'd like to thank the Australian Chamber of Commerce in China, Hong Kong, Mongolia, ANZ Chamber of Commerce Philippines, and also Australian Chamber of Commerce South China for participating participating in the event. So I think very quickly, just a quick introduction of Ashton Legal Services. We are a Sydney-based law firm specializing in Australian migration work. Most recently, our focus has been the global talent visa, and we've always had a strong focus in the business, investor, and investment and innovation program. In addition to the above programs, we've also been helping Australian businesses where they are looking at sponsoring talents from overseas, where there's a shortage of skilled employees in Australia. In addition to the skilled migration, employer-nominated programs, we also work on the more traditional type of migration work, including family migration. But on top of the visa application-driven work, we also deal with complex matters, including health waivers, character issues, appeal cases, as well as ministerial intervention cases. Just a very quick introduction of myself. I am admitted to practice in the High Court of Australia as well as the Supreme Court of New South Wales. And I have a background in accounting and finance, but I decided to complete a Juris Doctor's degree from the University of Sydney in 2012. So I've been on the role as a solicitor since 2012. Initially, I worked in employment law, but later I've been focusing on Australian migration law. As I mentioned before, we've started working in the Global Talent Program towards November 2019, when the program was initially brought out by the department. So in addition to the Global Talent Program, we also focus quite a lot on the high net worth individuals for their business migration into Australia. Now I'll hand over to Minh, who will do a brief introduction of herself, my colleague Minh.
Thank you, Robin. So my name is Minh Nguyen. I am a Vietnamese-born Australian. I've been in the migration law industry for over 8 years. So I started in 2012 within the Department of Home Affairs, and I was there for about 4 years. And my last held position was as an APS 5 team leader in the service centre. I decided to leave the public service sector and actually be more proactive in helping the visa applicants and their families to migrate to Australia. So I did the course for migration law and practice and became a registered migration agent in 2016. Since then, I've been working with Ruobing to focus on, as he mentioned earlier, the more recent Global Talent Visa Program, Business Investment and Innovation Program, Employer Nomination, General Skilled Migration, as well as the Family Migration Stream. And I will hand over to Ella to introduce herself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ella. I'm Chinese. I studied law in England, worked in China in corporate law for 5 years, and then I immigrated to Australia in 2011. I was admitted to practice as a solicitor in Queensland in 2012, and then I became a migration agent in 2014. During the first 5 years of my practice as a migration agent or solicitor, my focus was on the employer-sponsored visas as well as business skilled visas. Since the introduction of the Global Talent Visa in November 2019, I have incorporated Global Talent Visa into practice as well. Now back to me.
Thank you, Ella. So just a brief sort of overview of the Global Talent Visa Program without overlapping too much with what Pip has already mentioned. So the program itself is quite young compared to other visa programs. So it's about maybe 2 years old. Within that timeframe, I think Ella, Ruobing and I can all agree that it's transformed quite a lot to become more varied, more diverse, more inclusive, and attract a lot of the highly skilled professionals and PhD candidates within an ever-expanding target sector. So 2019, 2020, the quota was about 7,500, if I can remember roughly, but since then it's doubled. So the popularity of the program, as you can see, it is increasing, and the threshold is ever changing to be more inclusive for that global talent attraction. There are at least 8 different geographical areas where people like Pip, global talent officers, are stationed. So Pip is currently in Canberra, but she's looking after the region in Hong Kong and North Asia. But there are also other global talent officers sort of stationed around Southeast Asia, the Americas, Europe, UK, to do exactly what Pip is doing, is recruiting, supporting and attracting the highly skilled and talented individuals to contribute to the economic growth of Australia through technology, innovation, networking and job creation. There is also a focus, I mentioned briefly, for performing PhD candidates as well as highly skilled individuals who are internationally recognised for their achievements in the 10 target sectors. International recognition is quite broadly defined. I think I saw a quick question in there about how do you define international recognition. It is on a case-by-case basis, but generally it is what it stands for. So your achievements are recognised by international industry peers, organisational leaders. You're presenting your work, your achievements. There's an accolade around what your achievements are. And it is about the innovation. It is about filling key knowledge gaps, and it is about standing out in your target sector. So one of the other aspects of the Global Talent Visa, and most crucial aspect as well, is to have an Australian nominator to endorse the work, the international reputational recognition of your work. That Australian nominator has to have the national reputation in the same field as the candidate. And it is also preferable that there is some sort of working relationship between the candidate and the nominator. However, if there isn't, especially for candidates offshore, the warm connection is, we always say the warm connection is always better than the cold connection. But at the same time, industry leaders here in Australia are not averse to endorsing works of overseas candidates whose expertise, whose skills are exceptional, and they can see that there is a clear prominence and contribution that can be made by the candidate to the Australian economy and environment. The process itself, it's a 3-stage process, and I think we'll go through that in more detail later on in the presentation. But essentially, the first stage is the expression of interest submission, where the candidate will present their profile. How are they internationally recognised? What's their target sectors? What's their target sector? What achievements have they made? Are they still prominent? And how can they be an asset to Australia through their skills and their expertise? It is then assessed by the global talent team. If they are exceptional candidates, then they will receive an invitation to apply for the visa. Once that invitation is received, then the visa can be lodged, and family members of primary applicants can also be added to that visa. Thank you. Next. So we'll go through what's not required and what is required. So what's not required is the point of differentiation between the GTI program and other traditional programs like the employer-sponsored visa and the general skilled migration visa. So the GTI, you don't have to have any specific English level. However, if you have functional English, then you don't have to pay what's called the second stage application charge. If you do not have functional English, then you do have to pay that extra charge, I think, of about $5,000 for applicants over 18 without functional English. There is no skills assessment expectation. If you do have one, all the more benefit to you as a candidate, because that skills assessment is an endorsement of your skills and its applicability here in Australia, but it's not required. There's no state government nomination. There's no employer nomination, no expectation of financial investment, unlike the Business Investment and Innovation Program. There's no points test, and PhD graduates can also apply. What is required? So you have to demonstrate that your work, your skills, experience, people in academia, it is within the 10 key sectors that Pip mentioned earlier. It's not, I have to highlight here as well, it's not enough that you are working in those target sectors. The program targets sort of the high caliber, highly skilled individuals who are contributing to the development, the growth, the transformation of those sectors through, for example, building, developing technologically innovative products using artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. Or your research, if you're in academia, your research is actually filling a gap that's not yet, there's not yet a lot of research behind, but can also propel that sector further forward in terms of innovation and filling knowledge gap. There is an expectation that candidates need to be under 55. However, if you are over 55, there are opportunities to show that you can make exceptional economic contributions to Australia, should you be considered for the GTI. There is an expectation that you are either already meeting what's called the Fair Work High Income threshold, which is about 158,000 Australian dollars. If you're not quite at that level, then you have the opportunity to show that you have the potential to achieve that threshold throughout your career development. The Australian nominator, as I mentioned before, has to be a person of national reputation in the same sector as yourself. And it's beneficial to have an existing working relationship. However, if you don't have an existing working relationship with any Australian citizens or permanent residents, then that's an area that Ashton Legal can also assist with in terms of forging that connection, whether through, if you've got 2 degrees of separation, a connection to an Australian citizen or permanent resident, or if you don't have one at all. So that's something that we assist with. And of course, you do have to meet health and character requirements for all migrating and non-migrating family members. So regardless of whether you're, for example, your spouse and children want to migrate to Australia with you, they would all need to meet health and character requirements. For PhD candidates who have either finished a PhD degree within the last 3 years or are about to complete a PhD in the next 6 months, if they are relying on purely qualifications, then to meet the International Record of Achievements, as I said, it needs to be within the last 3 years and completed in the next 6 months. For candidates relying on academia, we see that a lot of the time, what they demonstrate is that their research is filling a particular knowledge gap within those key sectors that can then be further developed and contribute back to the Australian economy later on. Thank you. Next. So recently we had a federal budget announcement, which essentially stated that there is priority given to the global talent stream, business innovation and investment program, as well as employer-sponsored visas. So the streamlining of these programs means that the Australian government is essentially looking for people highly skilled immigrants to come here to share the transfer of skills, transfer of knowledge, investing in Australian industries and organisations through job creation, and to sort of contribute back to the Australian economy. So which is why these 3 programs are given priority, particularly with the GTI program. It is a priority processing program, and compared to all the other visas, the processing time is quite quick. Over the next 4 years, about 550 million Australian dollars will be committed to attract talent and business from overseas. And because there is a significant reduction in the general skilled migration visas, the 189, 190 and 491, the increasing popularity of the GTI program means that it will become a bit more competitive, and the threshold for meeting the criteria will also increase as well. Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mina, for the introduction of the various criteria for the global talent visa, and also, outlined what is required as opposed to some other programs under the general skilled migration. So what I wanted to share with the audience now is a recent Freedom of Information outcome we requested from the department. So in Australia, the department, government agencies under relevant legislations are required to release information where it is it is in the public interest. So we've been able to get information from the department recently in June on the various EOIs, the percentage of the different target sectors. So as you can see, that digital technology is one of the areas that has the highest number of EOIs, and it also break down into those EOIs that has been decided. So of those EOIs that has been decided, there's further breakdown into the ones that have been invited and those who are not invited. As you can see, overall, about 65% of the expression of interest was not considered to have met the global talent visa criteria, so they were not invited. And for the digital technology, there is even a higher percentage that are not invited. So 70% of the EOIs in the digital technology sector are not invited, or for that period from 1st of January 2021 to the 30th of May 2021. The next slide goes on to look at the processing time. So expression of interest processing time from allocation to decision. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of EOIs. The processing time are over 3 months, and there's also quite a lot that had been processed in a much shorter time frame. The statistics of the processing time relates to the 1st of January 2019 to 4th of June 2021. So in terms of the processing time, when the program was first introduced, there were less applicants, so the processing time of the EOIs were much shorter. As we stand now, currently the processing of the EOIs are generally, the department is assessing application or EOIs that were submitted in October 2020. So there is about an 8 months lead time. However, where the candidate can demonstrate that they have they're really high caliber candidate and has got a really good profile, then it is possible to get endorsement from the Global Talent Officer, who will then be able to request the further fast tracking of the EOI assessment. However, as Pip mentioned in her presentation earlier, given the impact of the COVID, there is a slowing down of the EOI and visa assessment. The next slide then shows us a breakdown of the visa grant in the Global Talent Program. So as you can see, this program, as long as the candidate meets the requirement, there's no geographic allocation, there's no restriction in terms of the nationalities of the applicant. It's got a very wide range of countries, citizens, where they have received this visa. So I'll now hand over to my colleague, Ella, who will talk a little bit more about the government fees as well as about the process of the Global Talent Program.
So now I'm just going to give you some idea about how much it costs in terms of government lodgement fees. So this is only required if it proceeds to the visa application stage. That is candidates who have received an invitation to lodge a global talent visa application. So for primary, so there is a slight increase since 1st of July this year. And for primary visa applicant, the visa application charge is 4,180. And for dependent applicants who are 18 and over, it's half of the primary applicant's fee. For dependent applicants under 18, it's a quarter of the primary visa applicant's charge. And as mentioned by Minh, that if you have English, functional English, or any applicants who are 18 and over have a functional English, you will avoid to pay for a second installment fee of 4,890. And then there will be other costs such as health examination, police checks, and translation. Next. So now we're just moving on to some case studies. So we've listed 4 case studies which we assisted. This is just to give you a taste about the whole process, how long it takes. Obviously, some of the applications were from last year, and the processing time for last year is much quicker than this year. So the first one is a Hong Kong national based in Hong Kong in the financial services sector. And this lady works for one of the international banks. So the EOI was submitted in February this year, and the invitation to lodge the application was received 19 days later, and visa application was lodged the next day, and then visa was granted 2 months later. It's we just also want to mention that Hong Kong passport holders receive priority processing already. And the second one is Hong Kong national as well, based in Hong Kong, in the Digitech sector. The EOI was submitted in November last year, and invitation was received 12 days later. And this application was lodged in May this year and is still ongoing. So the current processing time is about 2 to 3 months. So we would expect an outcome soon. But also for Hong Kong passport holders or people who have lived in Hong Kong for more than 12 months, they would need to provide Hong Kong police clearance, and it's taking longer than the other police clearances from other countries. So need to take into consideration for that about the processing times too. And the third one is for Singapore national, based in Singapore in advanced manufacturing sector. This EOI was submitted in October last year, and invitation received 6 days later. And visa application was lodged on the same day, and visa was granted 21 business days after. And the last one is for a Bangladeshi national. He's based in Singapore in the financial services and fintech sector. He's also working for one of the international banks. EOI was submitted in March, and invitation received 4 days later on a Saturday. Visa application was lodged shortly after, and visa was granted after a month. Next. So this one would be about our workflow, how we work with clients. Basically, there are 3 stages. And the first one, we would usually, when we receive an inquiry, we will get the client's profile or CV, and then we will provide a preliminary assessment to let the client know whether they would be eligible. If required, we will suggest a consultation so we can go through the client's profile experience in more detail. And if the client is eligible and is happy to engage us to assist with the application, we will enter into a service and the cost agreement. And the second stage would be to assist the client with the EOI. We will provide a tailored document checklist for the EOI as well as for the visa application. And then we will provide a submission based on the documents provided, addressing all the applicable criteria. And if we think the client is a high profile client, we will contact a global talent officer to seek their support for the application, more for the priority processing of the application. And then we'll wait for the outcome of the EOI application. If the client receives an invitation to lodge the application, we'll move on to the third stage, which is for the visa application. Next, Robert. So this is about our service charter. It is as simple as what's provided in there. So we provide fixed fees. There is no hidden charges. Everything is upfront, unless there is something that come up during the process of preparing the application. So for example, there is a health issue or there is a character issue, we will then need to address it for additional fee. And we always provide honest assessment. If we don't think you're eligible, we will let you know as soon as we can. And we always provide swift responses. We do understand sometimes clients can only work after hours and during weekends, and we do our best to cater for that need. And we're highly efficient. We achieve and we want to achieve the best outcome within the shortest time frame. And we always provide the best strategy to achieve clients' objectives. And so if global talent visa is not an option, we will advise something else that is applicable, of course, as we do provide assistance for other types of visa. And we always provide clear instructions to clients, usually by email for record keeping. And our email is always straight to the point, never cumbersome or requests you to fill in, extensive questionnaires. Yeah, that's about our service charter. Next, Robin. So that concludes our presentation from Ashton Legal. Thank you very much for being here today. And we hope we have provided useful information to you. And as you can see, here is our contact details. And later on, AustCham will circulate a copy of the PowerPoints to registered participants. So you will also be able to find out contact details there. Shoot us an email if you need if you have any questions. Thank you. Now back to you, Rowan.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ella. And thanks to all the team at Ashton Legal. It's great to get a further insight into the process, which we hope does attract some of the brightest and most talented around the world to Australia. So moving on now, we're going to move and shift to the Q&A aspect of today's session. We did have some pre-submitted questions which have been covered already in the presentation, but I can see Minh here has been kindly enough answering some of the questions live in the Q&A box. If you'd like to check them out, some have been answered already, but we will move on to some of the questions live on video. So I think that I'll start with Pip for the first question here. Has the COVID pandemic changed Australia's immigration system and the visa processing speed and priorities?
Great question. Thanks, Rowan. So COVID-19 hasn't changed the fundamentals of Australia's immigration system. We continue to have a universal visa system, which requires non-citizens to obtain a visa prior to travelling to Australia. Obviously, there are some added complications now in terms of Australia's closed border. So individuals who have the right to enter Australia on a visa now have to apply for so if they're a temporary visa holder, they need to apply for a border waiver. So there are details on how to obtain those through the department's website. If you were granted a global talent visa, you would be granted a permanent residency visa that allows you to enter and remain in Australia for a period of 5 years. And accordingly, as a permanent resident of Australia from the date of grant of the visa, you will not be required to access or to apply for a border waiver. You would be able to travel to Australia immediately, obviously subject to any flight caps or availability of flights through carriers to Australia. In terms of processing of the global talent visa, skilled migration visa applications are processed in accordance with government policy priorities, and applications for the global talent visa are afforded the highest priority in terms of processing.
Great, thank you very much for that, Pip. Moving on, this is one for Ashton Legal. What kinds of information is expected to be highlighted in the application to increase your eligibility on the EOI invitation possibility?
So it's quite a broad question. It really depends on the individual candidate's profile. So what are the claims that they're presenting, and how do you back that up with credible evidence that demonstrates your claims? So in terms of highlighting international recognition of your achievements, you need independently verifiable evidence. It can range from things like employment references, international awards, recognition in the with industry bodies, professional membership with international organisations. So it is quite a it depends on the candidate profile. So what Ashton Legal does is, in our eligibility assessment stage, then we will talk to the clients in depth. What is it that they're claiming, and then what is it that can be provided to strengthen their profile at the EOI stage.
Fantastic, thanks for that. Are there any special requirements for families considering migration?
For families considering migration?
Yeah, I guess I think that would be for those who are joining the applicant. Is there any special considerations there? Anything they need to be mindful of?
Right. Yes. So as if the main applicant is applying and dependent spouse and children are also being added as migrating family members, they can do so. Just to be wary, I think, is for children, it has to be under 18 years old. If the children are over 18, then they have to be financially dependent on the main applicant, and they have to be under 23 at the time of decision. All family members also have to meet the health and character requirement.
Yep, great. And I guess this is a bit of a flow-on question here. Can children also take advantage of the Australian education system?
I'm happy to answer this one if you like, Min.
Thanks, Pip.
So as permanent residents to Australia, children are able to access Australia's education system. Obviously, advice about your individual circumstances you should seek from the relevant state or territory education department or particular private institutions if you choose to send your child to that school. In terms of, as I've mentioned, permanent residency visa, so any dependents are free to work and study as they see fit in Australia once the visa is granted.
Fantastic, thanks for that, Pip. Moving across to some of the questions that have been asked during the session. What kinds of disciplines could they be included in Digitech? And what is the difference between Digitech and FinTech? Maybe a bit broad and not within your circle, but anyone want to have a go at answering that?
I think if I can answer that question, excuse me. The department website, there's a expanded kind of subsets of skill sets under the target sector. So, for example, in digital technology, you might have cybersecurity, and you might have machine learning. These can or fall within the digital technology sector. In terms of fintech, for example, cryptocurrency or blockchain, and the digital technology is applied in financial services or the financial service sector. So that can fall within the digital technology or fintech. So sometimes there's no clear demarcation of the sector. Sometimes there's a blurring of the sectors. But as long as the candidate is able to put a claim that is demonstrable through evidence that they have this expertise or specialist knowledge in one of those sectors, immigration will be okay.
Thanks for that, Robin. A question here, at what stage does the application fee need to be paid? Is that upfront there, Pip?
Thanks for that, Rowan. So because as Ashton Legal has outlined, it is a 3-stage process. So the EOI component of the process, free of charge. So EOIs are submitted through the department's website through a web-based form. If you're invited to apply for the visa program or for the visa, then what you need to do is submit a visa application through our system called an IMI account. Details will be provided to you as part of your invitation, and following filling out of all the details to the IMI account for the visa application, you'll be then asked to pay the visa application charge. In terms of fees chargeable by businesses such as Ashton Legal or migration agents and other migration lawyers, that's a matter for the client to discuss further with whatever agency they may engage to assist them with their application. But as I've said previously, it is not a requirement from the department that you engage professional services to apply for this program.
Good advice. Thanks for that, Pip. Back on talking about family and dependents, question here is, who's considered immediate family, and does that include parents?
Oh, I can answer that. And no, parents are not immediate family members. Only spouse and children.
Okay, thank you. Question here. Do you need a contract, a working contract prior to applying for the EOI? And in addition, could an Australian professor become the nominator?
Yeah, I think I've answered this one in the Q&A. In terms of an existing contract, so I'm not sure whether they mean if you are currently employed, then do you need to provide your employment contract? Then yes, that would be one of the pieces of evidence that you can show that you are still prominent in the target sector. If you're talking about a contract for employment in Australia, it's not a requirement that you be offered employment in Australia before you apply for the visa. Although if you do have that offer, then definitely it would be very advantageous for your profile. Approaching an Australian professor. So if you're a PhD candidate, most of the time they will approach the supervisor and Australian professor for the nomination because there is that existing working relationship. I think there was also a question about if I'm an offshore candidate doing a PhD, how do I connect with Australian professors? I think most of the time PhD candidates would have some level of international collaboration with other university and tertiary education providers, whether there's reviewers of international journals that they can reach out to that are Australian citizens or permanent residents in that sector. It's a good starting point there. But definitely Ashton Legal also provide that service of making that connection for offshore candidates with potential Australian nominators as well.
Thank you very much, Minh. A question here, 1 second. Is it possible to meet the high income salary criteria if you have a job offer, but actually don't have the job currently with that the income threshold?
I'll answer that question if I can. All these depend on the circumstances of each case. So if you have a job offer that is a genuine job offer that is within the market range, it would reasonably accurately reflect your expertise, then yes, but if there is a huge gap between what you are on now and what you've been offered, then that can be something that immigration would put a question mark on. But also depends if a candidate is in parts of the world where the average salary is a bit lower than what one would expect in Australia, then we can also look to whether that offer is reasonable if a similar person with the qualification or experience are able to secure in Australia. So yeah, depends.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Question here, if you have PR and later get a RRV, which I'm uncertain of what that stands for, while outside Australia, during COVID, is it possible to extend or get a new RRV without returning to Australia? That question has been submitted in the Q&A, if you'd just like to have a check there.
Because today's webinar is focused on global talent visa, the resident return visa, the RRV, is something that we can discuss outside the forum today.
Fantastic, thanks for that. And only a couple of questions ago, one here which is pre-submitted. Are there any agencies that can help talents find a job in Australia?
We, as part of our work, so our work is focused on the legal aspect in terms of getting the visa for the candidate, but we are also wanting to, where we can, we also want to be able to assist the clients who have been able to secure the visa that, eventually they wanted to come to Australia and work in their area of expertise and professionally develop and enhance their skills and also contribute to Australia. So where we can, we will reach out to specialist recruiters in Australia where they will, they would review your profile with your consent. And then if, we might have a chat together. If there's definitely potential that they will be able to assist you in finding appropriate employment in Australia.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, conscious of time, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Any further questions, we'll be sure to direct them directly to our special guest here today. I'd like to thank everyone who attended, but most importantly, I'd like to thank our guest speakers and presenters, Pip Butler, the Global Talent Officer with the Global Business and Talent Attraction Taskforce from the Australian government. Thank you very much. And also the Chamber's newest members, Ashton Legal and the team here, Ruobing, Minh and Ella. Thank you very much for your insights. For those who are watching, this event has been recorded and will be on our YouTube and sent to you in due course. The presentations will be also sent via email. If you do have any questions, be sure to contact AustCham Korea and we'll be passing them on. Once again, thank you very much for joining us and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.